You hear me?
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to our November Management Forum. We have a very full agenda today. Um, Again, I want to remind you that you can ask questions at any time by typing them into the Q&A. We'll get to them as soon as we can. We'll get to as many as we can during this session. If there are questions that we can't answer in the moment, we will get back um, and post the answers to those questions. This morning, we're going to hear from Lisa Winston about where we are with COVID and about guidance for activities here on the campus. We're going to hear from Basil Price about campus security. We're going to hear from Ayanna Johnson about the results of our latest employee survey. Terry Saltz about campus capital projects, Max Brand about the Combined Charities campaign. And of course, we'll hear from Susan Ehrlich. She'll take a lot of questions. I'm sure she'll kick us off with some good words to start. Susan, would you like to start? And then I'll grab it back after you're done and start with our panelists.
Thanks, Brent, and good morning, everybody. Really nice to see you all. My words are going to be brief because we have so many great presenters today, and I'll just hold until the end to see what questions folks have. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and Lisa, take it away.
Thanks, Susan, and thanks, Brent. I will also keep my COVID comments briefer than usual, since we do have a lot of things to cover, and always glad to take questions or to elaborate if something is incomplete or unclear. Well, I think everyone is aware that, perhaps our most exciting development of the last couple of weeks is that the Pfizer vaccine is now authorized for our pediatric patients ages 5 to 11, which is just wonderful. The kids themselves, their parents, their families, their clinicians have been waiting for this for a long time. And we are offering vaccine here in our pediatrics clinic on the 6th floor of Building 5 at 6M, and also in the Learning Center. So please keep encouraging folks to take advantage of that. We would definitely like to get as many of our younger patients, family members and friends vaccinated as expeditiously as we can as the holidays are approaching. We also, in the last couple of weeks, got really pretty detailed guidance about booster doses. And of course, healthcare workers here on campus are eligible for booster doses, as are many others who are 18 and older, so long as they completed their first 2 doses of mRNA vaccine at least 6 months ago. So please also encourage folks to take advantage of getting their booster doses. As we have talked about many times, although the original doses of the vaccine are continuing to provide very impressive protection against more severe disease, we're certainly seeing breakthrough infections in fully vaccinated folks as people get further out from their original vaccine doses. And the data that we have so far on boosters is very encouraging about increased protection in that. So, so we would love to see people getting their booster doses to try to decrease people getting sick, to decrease transmission to others, and to just generally keep our whole environment safer as we go into the holidays. And then one thing that I really should mention, as Brent brought up, since we are going into the holidays, is guidance for safe gathering together on campus. And we are continuing to be careful here on our healthcare campus since we do continue to have cases. We're seeing cases in patients who are coming in. And of course, we are also seeing some of our healthcare workers who are developing breakthrough infections. So lots of things that we can do as we want to, gather together with coworkers and celebrate the holiday season. We can gather together as long as we are wearing masks and observing social distancing and avoiding crowding. If people want in their departments to provide treats or takeaway food, people can come and say hi to each other and then pick up those things and enjoy them later. People can have take-home activities to do at home. We can have gift exchanges that don't involve eating or drinking. Of course, we can continue to do virtual events. And if you're willing to brave the elements, it is more flexible for meeting outside, and it is possible in small groups to eat and drink together outside, although as the rains come, that may be less appealing. And I think Brent is going to be circulating a flyer with some reminders about that. And then I will just finish up by saying, although they're not quite ready for prime time, we have gotten some really good news about some antiviral agents that may provide additional help for those who do get COVID. One drug in particular looked very promising in the initial press release that came out. The FDA is going to be looking at that, we think, relatively soon. And so, as we go into the new year, we may have additional treatments to offer people, as we move into the next phases of COVID-19. So I will stop there. Oh, I should say one more thing. Sorry. I should just say that if you do know of patients who are eligible to receive monoclonal antibodies, those are folks who are very early in their infection and have risk factors for more severe disease. We are now administering monoclonal antibodies on campus, and that program thus far has been very successful. So that's another thing that I think will help us as we move forward. Okay, stopping there. Thank you, Brent. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you, Lisa. And hang on, we may have questions coming up at some point for stuff. I'd like to introduce the DPH Director of Security, Basil Price, who's going to talk to us about campus security. And Basil, we have your presentation. And Christina, if you could get that up on the screen, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you, Basil, for joining us today.
Thank you, Brent. All right, I want to talk about the security model that's upcoming, and I want to focus mainly on the security staffing. So if we could go to the next slide. So the security staffing, first of all, began with reducing the sheriff's positions by 11 FTEs. And those consisted of the internal patrol deputy position, an administrative supervisor, a training coordinator, and a bike patrol deputy. And so in place of that, we've actually been approved for 32 FTEs of psychiatric nurses, as well as licensed psychiatric technicians. They will also include a BERT manager as well as LPT leads. And the role of the BERT team will actually be to provide crisis development and the early stages through rounding, as well as patient assist standbys, and then assisting with patient restraints. The other staffing involved us replacing 2 of the sheriff's cadets with patient experience health workers, provide health screening, visitor screening, as well as wayfinding and information services at the maternal child health, as well as the hospital lobby. And then working with the sheriff's office, they'll be changing out the traditional military uniform of the cadets. And those cadets will actually assist in supporting clinical staff with patient engagement, as well as providing other healthcare security services. We will continue to have deputies assigned 24/7 in the emergency department as well as in PES. And we've also added a vehicle patrol deputy during the night shift to provide exterior campus patrols throughout the evening shifts. Next slide, please. So with regards to the BERT team and their deployment, they will be assigned to the treatment pods in the emergency department 24/7. Additional BERT staff will also provide rounding consulting as well as de-escalation and response services in the hospital as well as the outpatient clinic. The effectiveness of the BERT is actually to assess and address factors that contribute to escalating behavior, whether those be involving patients, visitors, or employees. And some of those contributing factors are listed here. The whole goal is to address issues before they escalate instead of responding to acts of violence. Let's go to the next slide. So the coordination between the BERT team and the sheriff's office, again, at the earliest stage, this is where the BERT team will actually do the rounding, assessing, and addressing any issues that have the potential to escalate further, whether those be crowded waiting rooms or signs of anxiety within patients or visitors. Provide that support to, again, de-escalate. We're always more capable of de-escalating at these early stages where it's safer instead of allowing these situations to escalate further. Included within that early stage, cadets will also, under the direction of the BERT team, provide assistance with regards to providing standby watches, as well as maintaining line of sight with the individual where there may be some concern. And then when situations rise to the point where there is a danger to self and others, then of course the clinical staff, BERT or the cadet, can call for assistance from the sheriff's deputies. Now, currently what happens in many of these cases now is that we ignore the opportunity of these first three stages, whereas in its early parts of de-escalation, and we're reacting and responding to the height of crises. And basically what we're trying to do is to avoid and get away from that practice. Let's go to the next slide. So security-specific training will be provided to the BERT team. We want to make sure that they are not just effective with verbal de-escalation, but they're also equipped when preventive measures fail. And so they'll receive training in advanced team control, physical interventions. There's also coordinated response with the BERT team so that when there's a situation with BERT and the sheriff's office, we have both groups responding and dealing with the situation from a clinical patient safety perspective, as well as a law enforcement perspective. BERT team will be vetted through the psychiatry department. We want to make sure that they are able to demonstrate that skill set, that they're actually able to function in situations that involve behavioral health patients in high-risk situations. They'll go through exam as well as competencies, and there's also some DPH required training for the BERT individual. Next slide. With regards to cadets, any role of assistance with cadets with patient engagement will be defined through our hospital policies, as well as under the supervision of clinical staff. They'll go through the listed training here. The first three items are provided by the sheriff's department, but they'll also include simulations that will involve general hospital employees, because we want to make sure that that training and simulations is applicable to a healthcare environment. And then they'll also have DPH required training that they'll attend as well. the performance metrics. One of the things we want to do is we want to reduce law enforcement intervention in patient care situations. We want to measure the success rate of BERT when it comes down to verbal de-escalation and BERT interventions, as well as gather data as far as assaults as it relates to BERT. We want to address racial equity. And then we also have an opportunity working with Workplace Violence Committee to start developing care plans specific to the individual, which is also a preventive measure in addressing high-risk behavior. And then, of course, we want to decrease employee injuries due to assault behavior. Next slide. So from August up until March, which is the implementation date, there's been the hiring and onboarding of BERT. And one of the things I want to say about this is that the implementation date is March. However, if we haven't met the staffing for BERT at the time of implementation, we will continue with the current staffing model with the Sheriff's Department. So there won't be a gap in coverage. The sheriffs will continue to be on until we have BERT in place. And then we'll also have that transition period of BERT working with the deputies so that we have that collaborative approach moving forward. That transition also includes development of standard work processes, which are currently underway right now. There are about 10 standard work protocols that have been developed with regards to rounding and observation by location as well as by shift. The cadet training and simulations begins on November the 18th, and then we'll start seeing some uniform changes with the cadets come the end of December. So that concludes the presentation, and when it's appropriate, I'll take any questions anyone has. I turn it back over to you, Brent.
Bert, I answer to anything. It's okay. So a couple of questions for you, Basil, before we move on to the next presentation, and that is, you mentioned, in the event that there are staffing issues, we may slow down the implementation of the new model. Are there ongoing issues with that? Has it been an issue so far, staffing?
No, actually, I've been encouraged by the reports I've received from Terry D'Antoni and Joan, who's the BERT manager at this point, with their recruiting and the plan with regards to the training and that entire process. Joan can speak to just how many that they have in place at this point. But so far, I'm encouraged by what I'm hearing. We just need to keep it ongoing up until the time of implementation. And to just keep our hand to this, what we're doing is that we have a group that meets twice a month to actually just report out so that we can get updates on just where they are in that recruitment with HR involving the BERT team. John, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that since you're directly involved with it.
Okay, well, let's jump to another couple of questions. We got a question coming in, which is, who is the Sheriff's Department collaborating with to create their cultural humility curriculum for cadets?
Well, two things. The Sheriff's Department has their own program with regards to anti-racism and cultural humility. The cadets will also be required to go through DPH's cultural humility training as well. So with the eye care, cultural humility, and trauma-informed care, those are DPH required trainings that the cadets will have to go through.
Okay, thank you so much. And I just wanted to bring out this one point, and you mentioned where there's going to be 24/7 coverage of deputies. Could you just mention that again?
Sure. That'll be in the emergency department, which is the existing staff in emergency will remain, and the behavioral health pod A, as well as at the front entrance, and then in the PES, where there's a 24/7 deputy there, that will remain in place as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Basil. Appreciate you being here today. If you could hold on, I'm sure we'll get more questions coming in, but I'd like to, because we have such a full agenda today, I'd like to move to Ayana, who's going to talk about the employee survey results. And I think, Christina, you have that presentation too. Good, excellent. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm here presenting on behalf of a team that consists of Margaret Damiano, Dave Woods, and myself, who are the co-owners of the Developing People A3 that we've titled Thriving at Work. So today is going to be an update of the A3 work and then also a summary of the most recent Pulse survey. Next slide. So to ground us in where this is, how this is all connected, you know, ZSFG, our staff and providers are our most important resource, and our commitment is to the well-being and success of our staff and provider community. And this is embedded in our true north under developing our people. Next slide. So this year, as you know, life as we knew it has been disrupted for all of us. We're doing different work, and specifically, you know, not only the work that we've done, but the way in which we honor our people. But one thing that COVID has done is it really has grounded us in the importance of human experience principles. And so this A3 that's you probably can't read, but I'm happy to circulate, really highlights the work that we need to do to drive change at an organizational level. Next slide. So in order to take a look at where we are now, we really have to look back. So in the last 6 years, we have surveyed our staff a total of 11 times. Now this includes UCSF surveys. I think there's been a few DPH-wide surveys. We've had 2 already. And then we have had specific ZSFG surveys, like our culture of safety survey, which is out of the quality management department, our equity surveys, and then most recently our Pulse surveys. But if we look at just in the past year, we've administered 6 different surveys. So there's been 2 UCSF surveys that have recently closed. We've done 4 Pulse surveys, and Pulse surveys are what we are abbreviated versions of surveys aimed at looking at specific areas of focus. So we have a lot of information about what we need to do better. Next slide. So the surveys really have informed our strategies. So this is the strategy evolution of developing our people, True North goal. So what you see here on the slide is that we really started with the focus on development. So developing our people, how do we promote from within and develop learners? And then our strategy shifted after we completed our first DPH-wide survey, which was in 2019. And we wanted to become more inclusive, so we used the word workforce, and we wanted to balance development with the well-being of our staff. So after the 2019 survey, our overall engagement score that we received was very low compared to the national average. So we had a lot of work to do. And our focus really shifted to making ZSFG a better place to work. So we attempted to address indicators of overall engagement. But then the pandemic happened shortly after and really thrusted us into survival mode, which is not sustainable. So our strategy became even more focused on indicators that would make someone who works here thrive. And that is what I'm here to present to you today. Next slide. I think it's also important to look at the work we've done in the context of a changing environment. So during our last surveys and throughout our strategies, we have gone through 3 momentous shifts in our organization. So in 2016, we moved to building 25 and adjusted to a new work environment. Then in 2019, we implemented EPIC, which changed the work, how we do work for many of us. And then for the last year and a half, we've been working through a worldwide pandemic and in what I call the survival mode. So many of our staff during this time have been doing different work. They've been activated. Some have been working from home and now are coming back. So we've experienced incredible change as an organization. Next slide. So COVID-19 has driven us to address staff and providers' basic needs of safety, stability, and security, rethink how we now are re-engaging a more fatigued workforce, and then more relevant than ever, reintegrating staff who have been working remotely or activated. As I mentioned before, COVID has grounded us in the importance of human experience principles. And for us here, those are focused on communication, wellness, staff safety, and recognition. Next slide. So for each of those focus areas, we have operational A3s that are led by organizational leaders. So for communication, that is led by our Chief Communications Officer, Brent. Recognition is led by Shannon Smith out of the Care Experience Office. Wellness is led by Khadijah Grant, who is in the Community Wellness Center. And safety is led by Justin Dodderman, who's in nursing. So these individuals are leading a group of frontline staff to put together their best thinking about how to address communication, wellness, recognition, wellness, and safety. And specifically, how do they utilize the data to drive change and action? Next slide. So that gave you an overview of our structure, and I wanted to take some time to also share with you the survey results from our most recent pulse survey. So this last summer, we conducted a pulse survey asking a total of 10 questions, one for each of our focus areas of communication, wellness, recognition, and safety. And then we also asked some open-ended questions for each one of those areas. Next slide. And we had a total of 533 responses, which doubled the amount of responses we received from the previous pulse survey. The majority of our responses were from DPH staff, but we had a strong showing from UCSF. And what you see here on the slide is the responses by department. For DPH, we received many other departments, but because of space, we only could provide those that had 8 or more responses. And what you see here, DPH, we had a strong response from the emergency department and IT for UCSF, Department of Medicine, and Department of Psychiatry. Next slide. So what the survey told us, so this is a chart that is comparing the last 3 pulse surveys to our 2019 survey, which serves as our benchmark. So the 2019 survey is in blue, that's our benchmark. And then the 3 pulse surveys are in, from the first one in 2020 is in red, the second one in 2020, which happened in the fall, is in green, and then the most recent one is in purple. For some of these areas, you don't see some of the bars because we didn't ask those questions previously. So for example, safety is a newly added focus area and that wasn't asked. And recognition there was not a question in the 2020 pulse survey around recognition. But what this tells you is that for communication, we've done a lot in the past year and a half, and we have seen some gains through this past year. Most recently, we've seen a little bit of a dip, but we're still doing better than what we did in 2019. But for wellness and recognition, the story is a little bit different. We have areas, there's an area of opportunity, and same with safety. So what I'm going to go through is each of these focus areas and provide some high-level overview of the responses. So for the first one is around communication. So this is the response rate. The question is, different levels of the organization communicate effectively. And what we see here is a split 35 to 46, some neutral. So the majority agreeing or strongly agreeing that we communicate effectively. What we did is we pulled out from the qualitative comments the most frequently commented comments. And what we see here is the need for more frontline communication. And additionally, more diverse modes of communication. So we're very email heavy. There was also some comments around more transparency, like not hiding what is actually happening. I think this is related to COVID. and also incorporating communication in different types of meetings. There was some positive feedback for the Daily Digest, which is new to the organization. It came about in the pandemic, and also the COVID emails that are sent out by our Chief Medical Officer, Luke. Next slide. So in terms of wellness, the question is the amount of stress I feel is reasonable. The majority strongly disagree or strongly disagree. And that is no surprise given what we've been through in the last 18 months. And when we look at the comments, the stress is really directed at staffing. So people feel like, you know, they don't have the resources around them or in their team, and they're not staffed well. Also, we categorize it at culture, but what came about is a lot of comments around modeling good behavior, promoting equity and fairness amongst teams, and holding people accountable. There's also other things around the need for more wellness services, but some of the positive feedback was some of the wellness center activities that we brought back, I believe in May, when things were looking good in terms of COVID. And then there was also some feedback around shorter meetings or less meetings. The next area of focus is recognition. And the question is, I am satisfied with the recognition I receive for doing a good job. And this is pretty split, you know, between disagree and agree. There's a lot of neutrals. So again, another area of opportunity here. And when we ask like how an individual would like to be recognized, the majority said by a supervisor. So directly from a supervisor, thank you, recognition. And of course, there were other who commented around pay, comp pay, also learning opportunities in terms of advancement, and then free food. There was some positive feedback around the shout outs that were recently implemented due to the pandemic and that are posted in the Daily Digest, and then the years of service events that happen annually. Next slide. So around safety, there were two questions. The first is around where I work, employees and management work together to ensure the safest possible working conditions. And then the other question is around the organization cares about employee safety. And here you see a lot of agrees and strongly agrees, which is wonderful. But then we also still see some that feel like we can do better. And where we can do better is really embedded in our comments. So there were a lot of comments that were in support of the security and sheriffs that we have on campus and promoting a safe environment. Again, staffing came up, hiring more. The others were around COVID, providing PPE, providing frequent testing for staff, also the screening efforts that we put in place. And then on there you see telework as well. There were additional categories because safety is not only just around, you know, your physical, like safety in terms of harassment and threats, but also around like ergonomics. And there were other categories included in that. So that concludes a high-level overview of our data, but I wanted to just end with some next steps. So the next steps included communicating to all of you around the survey results. We already started last month sending out these results to each of the department leaders with some standard work around how they communicate to frontline staff. You saw at the beginning of the presentation our structure for how we're going to incorporate these data and inform actions through our operational A3s. And then DPH has engaged with a vendor who is going to be administering a DPH engagement survey in the winter of 2022. And then lastly is really aligning our actions to reflect the data that comes out of the UCSF surveys and the DPH survey results. So I'll conclude there, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Ayana, can I ask just a brief question before, and you know, again, we're jumping pretty quickly between stuff, but so should our staff have the expectation that they're going to hear about these efforts and these areas for improvement through their managers directly, or from some central messaging from you?
Yeah, good question. So we did provide the a part of the standard work for the managers that were sent was to communicate these data. And then we will be sending out a summary after this presentation to the organization as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. If you could hang on, I'd like to get to Terry and to talk about capital projects on campus. And Terry, I think you have your own presentation slides. Is that right?
I do. Good morning, everybody. I'm told my shirt is distracting, so I will switch to my PowerPoint slide as soon as possible. Let me pull it up. Where's my share? Okay, you should be able to see the ZSFG monthly construction updates now. And then I'm gonna go quickly because I know we have a very full agenda, and then I got Ken Humphreys right behind me that I'll be pitching to, and we can ask or answer questions right at the end. A quick recap: projects in construction, rehab, 6H, dialysis, public health lab. We're getting real close on public health lab and 6H. Projects in design and about to go into construction or Clean Lab, IT infrastructure, seismic retrofits. There's piece of that. Actually, that's pieces of a seismic retrofit are actually in construction, so I need to move that up. Family Health Center, 8090 specialties, psych emergency, fire alarm, and electrical infrastructure projects. And of course, we've opened up our adult urgent care and poison control. Moving right into the next slide, the third floor rehab. So last time I showed you this slide, there wasn't any equipment in the room. So now we got the ability to stock, and we got OSHPD occupancy signed off last week, which is a big deal. What that allows us to do is it allows us to apply and schedule our licensing with the state. And so that's what we have done. We have notified them of our occupancy status, and we're waiting to find out when that is going to be scheduled. In the meantime, we're working on our transition work, the day in the life training, the facility fit up, and all the things that go into making it ready to use. One of the big deals, other big deals about the occupancy with OSHPD is it allows us to reopen the corridor. Or actually not reopen the corridor, it's a brand new corridor. So this is an early Christmas gift to everybody. You got a brand new corridor. There's a little note down here about the dialysis relocation project is starting off. We're going to move that into its own slide next time because it's going into construction. But back to that corridor. This is the route. As we all know, on the 4th floor, there's a corridor that goes from elevator to elevator. And we have created the same type of corridor on the 3rd floor. So as you all might know, that there's a patio on the east side and the west side, and this corridor will run down the middle. What we have done is we have opened this up yesterday, and we closed down this one because there's some other work we have to complete in this phase of the project. But this corridor is open and making it easier to access 3D and 3C depending on where you're coming from. This is what it looks like. I got a fresh picture of the corridor. It's a nice clean shot from elevator bank to elevator bank. I'm excited about it. Hope you are too. Temporary servery. I introduced this last time. We're starting to build it out, make it ready for use, and we're getting some equipment in place. This will be opened up sometime in December, and what this will allow us to do is do some work in the permanent servery and then expand the entire servery when we're done. So we're looking forward to that. 6th floor, we got this last smoke control issue that we need to complete before we can occupy. But as you can see, it's built out and it's ready to be occupied if it wasn't for the fire alarm issue. The mezzanine, the mezzanine. Look at this. We got glass up on the mezzanine. Finally, this was a long haul. The curved glass is up. The last piece is an access door that has to be installed, and then we'll be doing some finishing up on this mezzanine work. But we're real close to completing this one, so I'm real happy about that. the seismic retrofit. So this is why I got to move this up into the construction realm. We've closed down this area on the first floor. This is the back of the pharmacy. Access is blocked on the on this corridor, and you're required to access it through this following the green line through the 1C area to get to 1M. This is going to be this way for at least 6 months. Moving on to other than bond work, we've been working on those chillers. I think we fared pretty well. We didn't have too much extreme heat this past summer, and I think we're beyond it now, obviously. We're looking good in this regard, and we're getting ready for next summer. We got a lot of work to do to make sure our chillers are up to par for next season. This is just a notice about this Thursday is a holiday, and so in observance, the Metro shuttles will not be running. Those are the ones from the parking lot on San Bruno and to 24th Street BART. With that, I will complete my portion, and I'll hand it over to Ken Humphreys to represent the UCSF Research Building Project.
Cool, thanks, Terry. A lot of stuff going on. It's pretty exciting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see your shirt's not distracting.
No. It's presentation friendly. I'm looking to share my screen. I put together a little slideshow for everybody today. This is what you're going to be looking at from over at the parking garage in about a year. This is the building that's going to fit into the campus really well, we believe. I just wanted to show a few updated renderings of the final condition. Looking from across the main entry, that's what you're going to be looking at, with a focus on the left there with the communicating stairway that goes all the way up the building, as well as the town centers on the right. That's the gathering area for all the researchers to get out of their workspaces and actually have a cup of coffee or something and talk to each other. Main lobby looking south, and main lobby looking from the south, looking north. So we're getting excited on some of the things that are coming up over the next couple of months. So our prefabricated exterior panels are substantially complete. We have to do some leave out areas on the north side of stairway 1 at the northwest corner, and then on the east at the south, where we have a temporary stairway, we're going to be closing that in, and then we're out of the business of installing exterior panels. Our roofing materials started showing up yesterday, so we're letting things dry out a little bit before we start putting the roofing in. But for the next 5 or 6 weeks, we'll be putting roofing in, getting this building dried in, so the next bomb cyclone doesn't do the damage that it did at the last one. And we're working through the building on the what we're calling the above ceiling utilities, the MEP above ceiling is going hot and heavy through the building, finishing up for the most part this month. And then we have, of course, the framing and drywall going through quite a ways here. Next Tuesday, you'll see another crane move into the site to lift some of the big mechanical equipment. So Terry, I'm sure we'll be coordinating that with you. And then a little farther down the line, we're going to start installing the terracotta tiles that you see on the outside of the building. These tiles, I'll go back. So all these terracotta tiles are being produced in Italy. A large number of them are already complete and are about to be put on a ship to come out this way. What you see currently with the yellow exterior is just a waterproofing membrane. So now we're sealing all the gaps between the panels, putting all the clips that the terracotta will hang off of, and then within the next probably 3 months, you'll start seeing terracotta go on the side of the building. And that's all I've got, Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see the note from Adrian, so it looks like we're
Yeah.
well on our way with the CDPH.
Yes, and Terry, you skipped right over the fan mail for your shirt.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So congratulations on that. Okay, Max, you've been very patient waiting to talk about combined charities. I think we have your slides, so we'll put those up. Max, if you're ready to go.
All right. So
Let's
first
get
of all,
your
can you hear
slides
me
up.
okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Well, my name is Max Brand, and I'm very humbled and honored to speak to you a little bit today about the Heart of the City Combined Charities campaign. This is something we do annually. If you can do the next slide, please. So what is it? It's a way for city employees, not just DPH, but everyone in the city to donate to a local or global charity of their choice. Last year, even it was a bad year for us, but still we had over 3,000 employees donate over $1.1 million to over 1,100 nonprofit organizations. And it's pretty easy to do it. Most of them is done online. It's fast and easy. Basically, you go to the Heart of the City website. It's heartofthecity.sfgov.org. And you sign in with your DSW number and your password. And from there, you just click on the I Want to Donate button and follow the steps afterwards. Most people do get payroll deduction, but you can do check. There's a couple extra steps involved with that, but it's not too difficult. And one of the questions I often get is, well, I've donated in the past, so I just assume it rolls over, and it does not roll over. So basically you have to do it every year if you want to go ahead and donate again. And the campaign ends on December 3rd. Next slide, please. So what can you donate to? There's foundations, and basically a foundation is kind of like, if you make a donation to a foundation, it's a bunch of charities, if you will, involved in the foundation. And some examples that are online, there's one called Creating Healthier Communities, one for Asian Pacific, Earthshare, and I just use this as an example, which they protect, support, and improve California's natural heritage of clean air, safe water, wildlife, healthy communities and families by raising funds for leading environmental organizations. There's also the Give 2SF COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund. There's a few more, but you can also find out about those on the website. However, if you want to donate to your own charity, there are over 1,000 to choose from, maybe thousands. I lost count. And you can do a search, like say for example, if you want something that means something to you, what you can do is search, like you can type in the word pets. It brings up a whole bunch of organizations, or dogs, or Sonoma County, or San Jose. You type in the word cancer, diabetes, and whatever you type in should give you a list of organizations or charities to choose from. And that link, the link down there is it actually has all the various a printout, if you will, of all the organizations to choose from. If your charity is not there, you can go ahead and manually do your own. You would just need a little more information, like the 501c3 number for that organization. If you want to donate to your church, same thing. Anyway, so it's pretty simple. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of bad news. So DPH is by far the largest group within the city of San Francisco, but we historically do really bad participation-wise. And Dr. Colfax has asked that we try to do better. And let me just give you some past year examples here. So in 2018, 15% of the city employees donated. Of that, DPH only had 90 employees, or 1.37%. Compare that to the airport, they had 998 donors, or 67% donate. In 2019, we had 110 employees, so a little bit better, but only 1.67%. And last year, we had 86 employees, or 1.31%. So this year, we're trying to aim for 5% DPH participation. This year, right as of yesterday, we had 119 people donate, or 1.81%. Whereas the airport already has 617, or 41.8%. as Greg Wagner said to me, it's like hey, we've got to beat the airport, and we've got less than a month to do that, and we really can't. So let's do the next slide, please. So the goal for the city is $1.2 million. And like I said, we've got our goal is 5% or 325 employees. So we have 206 more. So if you look at that little thermostat on the right, or thermometer on the right, we're almost at 40%. So, but how do we reach the goal? I mean, I'm more than happy to send emails out to everybody. But honestly, if I got an email for myself, I'd probably delete it. It'd probably be spam. However, we've got a whole bunch of leaders here on this call, and I'm hoping that you guys can be the instigators. Like, hey, this is, I can go ahead and have staff meetings. I can go ahead and reach out to the people that are on my email chain and suggest that they donate. So it really starts with you. How do we do this? So, what I say is like, lead by example. So go ahead and donate to a charity of your choice or charities of your choice. And in your staff meeting or emails to your staff, hey, this is who I donated to, and maybe you can speak why it's important, why that charity is important to you. Like, for example, I donate to a pet charity, it's the Sonoma County Wildlife or Sonoma County Humane Society. If you shared your staff meetings, that's great. If you want me to speak at your staff meeting, either in person or via Zoom, I am more than happy to do that. This is something that's very passionate to me. If I need to take time off from work, I will go ahead and do it. That's how much this means to me. And also as an incentive, there are raffle drawings. There's one more raffle drawing. It's a big one, which will be on December 10th, I believe. So as long as you get your donations in before it ends, which I think I said was December 4th, you are enrolled. For every $25 that you pledge, you get one raffle ticket. And there's some pretty cool prizes. There's some Bose speakers, some prizes from Williams Sonoma. There's the Crusette Dutch oven, and there's a Vitamix. There's tickets to the Nutcracker along with the backstage, which allows you to go backstage, $300 wine gift basket, and there are tons more. Next slide, please. That's it. So anyway, that's it. I know that's an awful lot in a little bit of time, or maybe that wasn't enough, but the really goal is like we really are trying to get more participation. And one other thing I should add is that a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I can't afford to do it." It's a minimum of $1. So if you can do $1 pay period, then you can do it. Obviously, we'd like you to do more than $1, but the idea is participation, trying to show that, hey, DPH, we're better than the airport. We're better than all these other organizations. We're the biggest, so we should, logically have the most donations, people to donate. So for that, I will turn over back to Brent. I thank you for your time, and please consider donating.
Thank you, Max. And we'll have your presentation and all the other presentations linked to the Daily Digest very soon. So you can direct your staff to look up those presentations, including yours, Max, at any time. Susan, we are toward the end of our time. What would you like to say in closing?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all the presenters. I mean, what an incredibly rich and information-full meeting this was. I just want to reflect to you all that, we started with Dr. Lisa Winston's excellent presentation on COVID. But COVID wasn't really the predominant thing that we were talking about today. There was a lot of other stuff about safety and security, staff wellness and recognition, and the survey results, capital projects, and combined charities. And so I'm just reflecting that, what occupies our time is changing, and COVID has occupied so much of our time over the past almost 2 years. It still does occupy our time, and we still do need to be very attentive to it and safe. But I'm just happy that we're focusing on other things that are important to all of you. So I just want to say thanks to everybody out there for participating. I'm sure there will be questions and requests for more information. Please send those forward, and I look forward to serving you, as I know all the other leaders do who are on this call today. Any other questions, Brent?
I don't think so. And if there are any questions, please send them to me and we'll get them answered. Um, you know, as Susan said, a lot of stuff covered today. And so I'm sure there will be kind of more questions. Um, we will likely talk again about the transition to a new safety model for campus. That's an issue that's going to come up again. You know, and we'll likely be doing some more presentations on COVID and capital projects. And so there are plenty of opportunities to ask questions as we go forward.
Yeah, and also I just want to say, you know, whatever feedback anybody has about this forum, I mean, I found it incredibly interesting and useful, even though I've heard pretty much all of it before. Every time I hear these topics, I get more from it and more changes, and there's more, you know, there's just more content. And so I really encourage, though, folks to submit their thoughts and ideas about what they'd like to hear more about, because we can definitely adjust for your needs.
All right. Well, thank you all. Thanks to every presenter. Thank you all for tuning in. And we will see you, if not before, we'll see you in December for our next management forum. Thank you all.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.